Because of the following special program, Private Benjamin will not be presented this evening.
Welcome, everybody. And we are live. It's Misti Media, live from the Las Vegas studios. And coming to the stage, Linda Kay Hardie from her undisclosed location in northern Nevada. How are you, Miss Linda?
I'm doing fine. Fine. It's a nice day and got the house open and maybe the cats won't show up because, the outside channel is on, as we say.
The birdies are in the trees, and there's other animals for them to watch.
Yeah, I have a raccoon living around here somewhere. Might be living under my deck. I saw raccoon footprints when we had our snowstorm whenever.
I think
the other day.
I think as long as the raccoon is not living inside the house, that's probably a good thing.
Yep.
So I saw some pretty drastic pictures from your undisclosed location of very high snow drifts and cars buried. People would have thought they were looking at the Northeast instead of northern Nevada. How did you get dug out from under all that?
Yeah, I got 7 inches at my house, and
oh, honey, I wish I had gotten 7 inches of my. Oh, you're talking about snow. Never mind.
Yeah. No, 7 inch. Ew. Anyway, yeah, I had some pretty deep snow, and I don't get around as much as I used to. I got look at those knuckles. I got bad arthritis, and
I thought that was from your boxing days.
It wasn't anything official and licensed. Shh.
Oh, that's right. It was all that underground Fight Club stuff you were doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what my friend Jack introduced me to. He was into a lot of stuff. He Vietnam vet, kicked out for knocking a general out. The general was saying, we would have been done with this war. We would have won this war if it weren't for them stupid kids and their drugs. And so anyway, colorful background my friend Jack had. He's not with us anymore. So anyway, but now a lot of snow, and one of my neighbors shoveled my walk for me, and that was very helpful. But yeah, going to the mailbox was like a major Arctic expedition. Boots and coat and goggles and my phone in case I fall. And
I don't know. I'm torn. Part of me misses that, and part of me doesn't. I mean, here in Vegas, although right now in Vegas, if you look around, the mountains are just absolutely covered with snow.
And isn't that the way to look at it? Oh, look, that's pretty.
Yeah, is that pretty off in the distance? Yeah.
Yep.
Although I do, there's also that sort of reassurance that, okay, I guess that means we're going to have water this summer. So
yeah,
I guess the wells won't run completely dry this summer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what's new in the 2 weeks since I saw you last?
Well, I seem to be getting over the writer's block I've had for way too long, where I just kind of grind things out slowly and starting to pick up. Ideas are starting to flow. My subconscious is telling me, hey, psst, here's an idea. Here's an idea. Let's write about this. Here's a story. And we're going, slow down, slow down. So that's a really good thing. That's always a good thing. Yeah, been reading some books but yeah, a lot of stuff like that going on.
What do you think it was that was sort of squashing your muse?
Oh, it was poverty.
That'll do it.
Yeah. I had a freelance writing client that I was writing a lot of feature stories about their clients, on contract, and it paid pretty well. It was fun work, and they ghosted me one day. Just suddenly they're not assigning me stories and not replying to my emails and messages, and okay, and took me a while to kind of start building up other sources of income.
So that kind of leads directly into our topic this week.
Yeah.
And no, as usual, we don't necessarily plan those segues. Sometimes they just come naturally of their own accord. But we
us plan things out. Yeah.
Us who don't make the thumbnail until like 48 hours before the show. Yeah. But the idea this week, we had gotten to talking about the things that irritate us, from a publisher point of view and from an author point of view. But I've got to say, I think the one you just brought up is one that irritates on both sides of that counter, which is the whole lack of communication and ghosting thing. I mean, so all of a sudden they're not telling you why they're not sending you gigs. They just aren't.
Yeah. And they had one of these online platforms. I forget the name of it, but where you could see what's going on around the company. Not nice PR agency, but I noticed there were fewer of the publicists than there had been, and the publicists each worked with several of the writers, and there are fewer publicists, and there are fewer writers. But the other writers, they're still getting work, but I'm not, and still, nothing going on. So finally, I just deleted the program and moved on. And 4 months later, the publicist, out of the blue, emailed me and said, oh, I didn't realize, I didn't tell you. It turns out that they were they reorganized.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Basically they cut out all the parts. I wrote for USA Today.
Nice.
And it's ghost writing, most of it, but I was writing for some big publications. They cut back to only doing social media type PR, and that's not my forte because I'm an old person and didn't keep up enough with. I don't like social media as much as I like other writing.
Hi, Angela. Oh, so nice to have you here.
Hi, Angela. So anyway, she emailed me 4 months later, and so I ghosted her. I didn't reply that I got the email.
So in your writing career, how often would you say that you go to submit work, or or you're waiting to hear back on something and you're actually getting there's no reply, there's no communication? How often would you say that happens to you? Is that a common occurrence? Is that something that happens fairly rarely?
It's very common. It's extremely common to submit to a call and then never hear. And a lot of people's submissions now say, if you don't hear from us, that's a no. And I mean, you have an intern that sits there and goes dink, dink, dink to send auto replies that say, anyway. But that's very common. And I have worked with some publishers who just disappeared. There's a certain anthology that you may have heard this story about. That publisher just didn't pay royalties and didn't reply to anybody, and and authors had to fight to get their rights back. Anyway, and then I've seen that in the in all stages. I received an acceptance for an article that appeared in what's it called? Anyway, Texas Monthly. Anyway, it's a magazine, a gardening magazine in Texas, and it was like 10 or 11 months after I submitted it, I got an acceptance, and they had said, if you don't hear after 3 months, anyway, but all sorts of things like that. And I've had it when I've been accepted, and where's the contract? Where's the contract? Hello. And I've had it after I've signed a and I've all levels of it.
It's fun.
So,
it's funny.
Yeah,
you say
it's common.
It's funny you say that, because I, from the publishing side of things, I try really, really hard to get back as quickly as I can. I do try. I do try to respond to submissions as quickly as possible, because I know people are waiting, and I know people, I don't really have a problem with simultaneous submissions. For those of you out there that are not up on publishing lingo, there are a lot of publishers who will not allow authors to submit the same story to multiple publishers or multiple outlets at the same time.
They'll often say, if you don't hear from us in 6 to 9 months, it's a no. I'm going,
right. So here's your story.
Tie it up for 9 months.
For 9, yeah, which is another thing that irritates me. But yeah, I mean, you talk about a really rude practice to authors. Like, here, they've spent the time to write the story. They went to the very first market choice they wanted, and here's the publisher going, well, you may or may, being totally wishy-washy. Well, you may or may not hear back from us, and if not, but you can't send your story anywhere else until we tell you no. Like, I'm glad they think so highly of themselves that they can just control the art, control the writing that way. But I've always been okay with simultaneous submissions, because I know that I don't ever want to begrudge somebody. Sometimes I'm not the perfect fit. Sometimes it's a better opportunity for somebody to be published somewhere else than published with me. I get it. That's totally okay. I'm not sitting out here saying I'm the number one publisher in the world. I am a publisher in the world, and I'm always happy when somebody wants to publish with us. But I also feel like authors are deserving of that communication, of knowing what's happening with their story. And I've been, I've been guilty of not getting back in a timely fashion. I totally own that. And
it happens. We it does happen, and we understand when it happens. Both sides, but just the silent thing.
Yeah, the ghosting thing is not okay. Yeah,
but it does. I mean, word can get around. Word gets around on, through publishing of authors that do just that egregiously stupid things, and I'm sure you'll mention some of those. But word does get around among the authors of egregiously stupid things that publishers do. And as a matter of fact, there's a blog about it called Writer Beware, for the ones that actually cross over into being like criminal and fraudulent. Yep. But yeah, it happens. It happens. But yeah, and small, especially with the small publishers like you.
I was
generally not your day job, right?
Yeah.
At first,
yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, and that's something that people that I think sometimes gets forgotten, because when I was with when I was with my previous publishing house that shall remain unnamed, it was my full-time job. It's what I was. I mean, it is really what I was able to focus on and do. And once all of that disappeared on me, I was back to work full-time. And there's this sort of lack of understanding that, I mean, I guess I shouldn't have to constantly tell everybody, look, I have a full-time job that's 50 hours a week, and and whatever extra time I have that I'm not dead on my feet, I'm working on Misti Media. But people, I get people who are just really rude, that it's like, I tell them that I've accepted their work, and like a week later, well, why don't I have a contract? Where's my contract?
A week later, they're upset. Hi.
Right. And I'm like, a week? You gave me a week to get you a contract? It's like, you've got to be kidding, right? I mean, out in the big world of publishing, I mean, you could be waiting 6, 8, 9 months for a contract.
Mhm.
You know, the fact
Yeah.
that I get contracts turned out in, you know, okay, sometimes as long as 90 days later, hey, at least it's only in 3 months, you know?
Mhm. And the thing is, I mean, most writers are not writing full time, you
Right,
know?
right. They've all
I
got
mean, you
jobs
know,
too.
yeah,
But
yeah, because
but
I mean,
I do
even when
think
I had
there's
that PR job, I was doing some other things as well.
yeah, I do think there is that feeling though that if somebody there's this assumption that if as long as you own a publishing house, it must be what you do all the time from the time the sun comes up to the time it goes down, and you know, it's that's just not the way it works in the small press world. You
And
know,
it's
and
kind of naive these days. It's really pretty naive these days. But then again, there are a lot of myths in the writing business,
well,
you know?
I think a lot too is that we've you know I've said it a few times to people that you know they forget that it wasn't really that you know from a time perspective, it really wasn't that long ago that you would have had to send your manuscript out on paper to a publishing house and have it go through their mailroom and have it go through to a junior agent and
Hmm.
have it sit in sit in a literal slush pile on some desk until somebody finally got around to reading it, then write a response that goes back US mail, and
Hmm.
you know the back and forth on the contract is some phone calls but still mailing documents back and forth. But the computer age seems to that you know
And
everybody
that
thinks that
too.
because I can email you in 5 seconds, you should be replying in 5 seconds
But
with
see, then
absolutely everything.
also that leads to another problem on your desk or on your inbox, where writers, a lot of a lot of the inexperienced wannabes will send their manuscript to like 500 different people at once with a generic cover
Yep.
letter, if they have a cover letter at all, and they don't even care. They don't even research. I mean, you probably get trying to think of something you don't westerns. You don't do westerns yet, do you?
I would love to, but I have, but
Yeah.
so
Any,
I definitely don't do poetry. And
okay. Okay.
God bless you, Linda. I know you write poetry. I know you're great at poetry, but like, I've always had a thing that poetry is one of those things that because I don't know how to market it and position it in
Yeah.
a way to be able to, for it to make any money for anybody involved in it, that's why I don't publish poetry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
the amount of poetry submissions I get, I'm like, did you even take the time to go read our fucking submission guidelines that are on our website, where we
no, they
spell
didn't.
out for you exactly what we're looking for?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've known people like I've done manuscript editing. I don't do I do a lot of copy editing. I don't do developmental editing much anymore because that can be so frustrating with the wannabes who don't have a clear idea of how the entire business works. And oh, it came out of my head. How can you critique it? It's fiction. It came out of my head. How can you tell me how to write it? I had a classmate in graduate school who said that about her writing. But I've known people that were writing science fiction novels that were really more fantasy, and they would send it off. Where'd you send it? Oh, I sent it to Harlequin. You mean the people that do the romances? Well, they'll like it. It's such a good book, and they're a big name they're a big name publisher. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that you know. By the way, you'll going back to what you had said about them sending out stories to sending out a submission to everybody. I literally just got one over the weekend with a fairly crappy cover letter and not even BCC'd, just CC'd to every publisher that they were writing to. So it wasn't anything we were looking for. It was, according to our submission guidelines on our website, we weren't looking for the material. 2, they didn't do a good job of presenting it to me in the first place in their email. And 3, they CC'd every single other publisher that they were submitting to. I mean, hey, it's a great way for me to build my mailing list. Now I can see, all these, now I know how to reach out to the heads of all these other publishing houses. But like, honestly, on what planet do you think this is professional?
Yeah, and that's just it. They're not professional.
I think that's one of those things that irritates me the most, is that not taking the time to research your publisher, where you're sending your submission. Is it even something they publish? Are you following the submission guidelines of how to submit or who to submit? Sandra Murphy and I were just talking about this. So Sandra Murphy's a developmental editor here at Misti Media, soon to be taking on a new role that we're in discussions about. But Sandy and I were just discussing this yesterday, that we had a call for submissions a few months back, that she was the editor of the project, so it made sense. Hey, contact her for your submissions for this. But somehow Duotrope, which is this website that keeps track of publishers and what their submission calls are, and it kind of works as a repository for authors to be able to go find new stuff to write up. Somehow they got it put up that basically all of our submissions should go to Sandy. So Sandy, so rather than our submission guidelines, where Walt Boyes gets everything from Nazca Press, which is sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, and Sandy at one point was doing new and emerging authors, but kind of expanded out. Meanwhile, I'm handling everything else, including agent, especially agent submissions. And all of a sudden, Sandy's like, "Well, I just got another submission. Well, I just got another submission." I'm like, "Why are all these people sending it to Sandy when we have it laid out in our submission guidelines that if you write this, it goes to this person. If you write this, it goes to the general mailbox." But
Duotrope said, yeah, and this line of this topic reminds me of another egregious one that a lot of wannabe writers do, and when I used to run a writers conference,
I got to interrupt you on one thing. I'm not thrilled with the wannabe authors thing.
Okay.
So I would say inexperienced authors.
Okay.
As long as you're writing, you're a writer.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you're a good writer. It doesn't mean you're a talented writer, and it doesn't mean you're worthy of being published. But as long as you're writing and you're getting your ideas down, you are a writer.
That's legitimate. Yeah. And that's my bad, because I've given that sort
Linda. Jeez, you're gonna burn.
But anyway, I've at writers' conferences, the one we did in Fresno, we used to have critique groups in the evenings. There'd be, go to this room for the critique group for the kids writing, and this room for science fiction, this room for mystery, and this one for romance. And I was in the children's one a lot, and writers would say to me, "Well, okay, here's my book, and here's what it's about." And I'd go, "Oh, okay." And it's got 20,000 words, and I'm going, "Okay, what genre of kids writing is it?" I don't really know, but everybody will like it. Everybody will like it.
Everybody will like it.
Everybody, and so I say, okay, well, what genre of kids writing do you read? Oh, I don't read any. I'm too busy. Plastic PR smile goes on. Okay, yeah, sure. Let me look at that, because they don't know what's going on,
right?
And so
if you're not reading in the genre that you're writing, you definitely are missing. You're missing out on stuff. You're not going to.
Somebody would say, have a 10,000 word manuscript and say it's a picture book. Not in this lifetime.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So yeah. Clueless people on both sides. The clueless publishers that, no simultaneous, but we're not going to tell you for 6 months, 9 months, a year, ever.
Walt has talked about, and Sandy thought it was a good idea too. I can't disagree of maybe what we need to do is create sort of a publishing boot camp, for new authors at Misti Media, where it's not necessarily their fault that they don't know the processes and what goes into it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of misinformation out there in the self-publishing world. That they tell self-published authors, well, you can do this and you can do this and you can do this, and I always say it's like TikTok recipes. You can watch these people making recipes on TikTok, and it's always missing some important ingredient or some important information, like what you heat your stove to or something like that. And I feel like the information they give out to self-publishing folks is a lot like that. It's always missing some key ingredients that you really need to be successful. So Walt and Sandy had both thought that it might be helpful that if people are coming in to our publishing house with these expectations that they've heard and learned elsewhere and aren't aware of the way things actually work, that maybe we take it upon ourselves to do some kind of mini boot camp for new authors to bring them up to speed and help dispel a lot of that misinformation. What do you think? Good idea?
Yeah, I think that is really good. Yeah, and you can get the word out, and I think a lot of people would be willing to publicize it. Some of these people that have blogs that list upcoming submission calls for this month, and like the Published to Death blog, and some of these people I would think would be willing to send to tell people about this sort of thing, because everybody that's professionally working in book publishing in any form knows that there are a lot of people out there that don't know where the information is. It's not like the old days where you'd walk to the bookstore or the library and you pick up Writer's Digest magazine. It's where do I find it online? There's 8 million things in my search return,
and so much conflicting information.
And your search return, the first bunch of search returns are the sponsored ones, and they aren't always listed as sponsored, and they may not be reliable and not what you need. So I think that would be a really good service.
I think all of it comes back to education. I mean, Writers and Publishers Network, is a great nonprofit organization.
Yep.
I'm vice president there. Sandy is newsletter chair, among lots of other stuff she does for them. Walt also writes a column now on world building for the newsletter over there. But that's one of the goals of WPN, Writers Publishers Network, is to try to bridge that gap of education. But I feel like there's just needs to be so much more of it. But because there's so much signal to noise. There's so much again, misinformation floating around out there that people take as gospel. Have you seen the meme that is something like the best ways to help an author? And it says stuff like, it's okay to go post a review that just says, I liked it, because if the book gets enough reviews, Amazon supposedly has this algorithm that will promote the book. Can I just tell you how much that's horseshit? Like just one big steaming pile of donkey do. It is the furthest thing from the truth. Amazon has no algorithm whatsoever that picks up on those reviews and promotes the books. None. That's even been confirmed to me from people inside Amazon. I have no idea how that irritating thing got started.
It's part of America's toxic positivity culture. Let's all put on a smiley face. Leave a review that says, "Hey, I liked it," and everything will be magically fine.
Well, but now nobody takes those reviews seriously anyway, because all it is people who are buying reviews, or they're convincing people to go and post reviews who haven't even read the book, or it's there. That's why legitimate sources, librarians don't look to Amazon or Goodreads for reviews for when purchasing, because they know that most of those reviews are bought. I would rather get reviews the good old fashioned organic way of people actually buying the books and reading it. Kevin R. Tipple is a author and a blogger who has run his own Kevin's Corner. He runs a book review site. He has for many years.
Oh yeah, Kevin. Yeah.
And he's won. I can't even tell you how many years he's won best review site. And his whole thing all along has been, if you're going to write a review of a book, write a real review of a book. Don't write, gee, I really liked it, or I liked the characters, or I couldn't, it kept me awake all night. I couldn't sleep until I finished. Like, that's not a review,
No.
and it drives me absolutely insane when I've got folks who are like, oh, can you send review copies to XYZ reviewer? And I go and look, and it's like somebody who doesn't have a website, is not an authority, doesn't have any influence, in buying circles, and their Amazon post of a review is like 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Like, you want me to give them a free book for what? Like, there's nothing there that's going to help us in any way, shape, or form, or help the author get seen or read.
And a decent review is hard to write, because, like, I know Kevin makes sure that he has no spoiler reviews,
which is really tough, considering that he reviews mostly mystery. Like, it's pretty. I mean, I think he may have slipped up here and there once or twice, but man, he's really usually, you're right, damn good about not giving it away.
Yeah, and I've written a number of reviews in my time, and doing some for a publication that does mysteries and thrillers and that sort of genre, and it's hard to write a real review that lets the reader, the potential reader, know what it's about without spoilers, and why it works.
Right.
Why the book works.
Or why, as an anthology, all the stories manage to fit together.
Yeah. Yeah. Why does this thing between covers, in the old-fashioned way, why does it work? Why does this collection of writing work?
We've got a comment from Lady Al from Al's Full Shelf Shop. Al says, I'd be worried I'd give too much away in a review if I left more than a brief one saying I liked it. I totally understand that, but I mean, Linda, give Al an example of, like, I mean, like in a historical book, saying that I found, I typically read in this historical era, and I found that their research was pretty accurate. Like, this is an accurate depiction of the time compared to other books that I've read, or I'm
writing a review for a book that takes place in Hollywood in around mid-1930s, and there's a little bit of Nazi activity in the U.S., and they're fictional characters, and then there's like Humphrey Bogart and Jack Warner, head of Warner Studios, and the author did a lot of great research and putting these characters together and having them work. And you can talk about that, like you're saying, the research and how it's blended into the writing and makes the writing work and makes it feel authentic, and the characters are authentic, and the story keeps you reading because of whatever reasons.
Yeah, I mean,
not just it kept me up all night, but it kept me up all night because I cared so much about this character,
right,
and I was really suspicious of this character.
Right.
But was I wrong?
Or there was so much tension that had built up over this situation. I couldn't wait to see how it played out.
Yeah.
Being opaquely specific. So, like, being able to identify what it is that attracted you to the story without having to give away any of the spoilers is actually easier than it sounds. It's because anybody just reading a review, it doesn't necessarily tell them why you liked it. And so if you're taking the time to post that, hey, I liked it, okay, why? Because then much more, it helps the author so much more if there's more specificity there, because otherwise somebody looks at the review and goes, oh, look, another paid review. They got somebody just come along and just say, oh, I liked it. And that's all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't worry so much about giving anything away. I think it's just more important to be specific in what it was that you liked about the book. Likewise, be specific about what you didn't like about a book. I love coming across descriptions. I love coming across comments on books where they say, this just was really poorly edited. Like it was a really great story and it had really great characters, but geez, there's a typo on every other page, and the punctuation is off, and it really pulled me out of the story. I couldn't enjoy it because I was so distracted by all these errors I'm finding in the book. Like that's totally legitimate reason to post a review, and that's almost kind of what's needed now that there's so much. I hate to say slop, but there isn't really a better word for it.
Are you talking about AI?
Yeah, I wish just AI, but I mean,
yeah,
there's just,
I know.
at least with the point of publishing before was that you had gatekeepers that maybe were overzealous. They definitely blocked a lot of minority voices. They blocked, a lot of communities that from getting published and getting heard. And that's kind of why self-publishing exploded the way it did, whereas this huge pent-up demand for people who weren't getting heard and weren't getting the same opportunities. And now here comes self-publishing with the that nobody has to go through a gatekeeper. Well, sometimes a gatekeeper is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, if you want, there's a lot of garbage out there. And speaking of which, here is one of the most important people here at Misti Media, Sandra Murphy. Everybody, please do give Sandy a big, huge hello. Sandy is one of the main reasons why Misti Media exists. She's the one that talked me off a cliff edge and convinced me that I could start over, and I could do publishing again. And honestly, if it weren't for Sandy, Misti Media wouldn't be here. It's just as simple as that. Sandy says, I had an author get mad and raise a big fuss because I spelled the character name as Jensen with a E-N-S-E-N instead of Jensen, J-E-N-S-I-N. Who the fuck has ever seen Jensen spelled J-E-N-S-I-N? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I probably would have given him 10 demerits just for spelling in such a stupid way. Names.
Yeah, and
Hi, Patrick.
nitpicky writers who will just gripe at any suggestion you have for them. But that's the way it happened. It doesn't work in fiction, though, when you do it this way.
Yeah.
Hello?
It's fun. One of the reasons why I asked Walt to head up Nazca Press for me is that, I like reading time travel stuff, and I like urban fantasy, but for the most part, I'm not a reader of science fiction and I'm not a reader of fantasy. I needed somebody that was knowledgeable on that. But one of my biggest problems with that content is names. Coming, so many names that are just completely off the wall that, with an apostrophe every third letter, or like,
and how do I pronounce that?
Right.
Yeah. I pronounce that in my head.
To me, that's the kind of thing that pulls me right out of a book. But then that just tells me that clearly the book wasn't meant for me. So it's not necessarily wrong, but I mean, I can't get into that. Jan Katush, who is a writer out of Czechoslovakia, and we published a collection of his short stories last year, translated from the Czech into English, which is really cool. He has a science fiction series, and he had written this short story collection based in that same universe. But he's working on some new projects, and he said to me, do we need to go ahead and put in a pronunciation guide, because some of the cities in here are true cities in in Czechoslovakia? And I said, well, no. And he was like, why not? I'm like, because you wouldn't go in and put in a pronunciation guide for your science fiction characters who all have odd names. So
I've seen that though. I've seen that.
pretty rare though.
CJ Cherry has done that.
But you gotta admit it's pretty rare. It's pretty
Yeah.
few and far between. So I was just like, if you want to have that kind of glossary in say a print version where you're going to have a map, like then I could absolutely see that. Let's see. Sandy says another author told the venue that I said she could see the review before publication. She proceeded to rewrite the entire review. We don't review either of those people anymore. Can you imagine the nerve of that?
Yeah.
Which
I bet the changes were just awful.
Oh, I'm sure the changes were the book is phenomenal. The book is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with this book. It's the best book that was ever written. Yeah.
Too many commas and yeah.
There is no such thing as a perfect book. It doesn't exist. You will never find a book that is completely 100% error free. You'll never find a book that has all the words spelled correctly. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I bought a Simon Schuster ebook years back that was missing the last 2 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to wait until enough people had commented on it and for them to republish the ebook to be able to finish the book. But I mean, there's one of the
I had a paperback like that, a bunch of years ago before ebooks that it just kind of ended, and I thought, well, that doesn't seem right. And it was a mass market paperback. Found the book in the library, and there was a whole nother chapter.
Isn't that
somehow
awful?
Didn't get in the paperback, the mass market paperback.
Yeah. So I mean, the people who have too much time on their hands and just want to be drama and sit and criticize because page 175 is missing a comma in the 3rd paragraph from the bottom, and they report this to Amazon. I'll never forget this. At my previous publisher, who shall remain unnamed, we had a review of one of the books, and somebody had submitted it to Amazon saying that it needed to be pulled from sale because there were so many errors in it. And literally, I think they found 5 things, but it was all those little things. It was like a comma was missing in paragraph 65. Like, who asked the proofreader to come in and write a book review? Like, I want to see everything you wrote, lady. I want you to send me every single thing you ever wrote so I can see what perfection supposedly looks like.
Yeah.
Right, Patrick? It's one thing to be a queen, but you don't have to be a drama queen. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hello, Lady Regina. Thank you for making it. I was starting to worry a little. It didn't feel right without you being here. And these are all folks, awesome folks from the reseller community that Lynn and I met up with back on the train shop hop back in the day that led to this show coming into existence. So thank you again to all of you out there that have consistently shown the love to us. We really appreciate that. And just a reminder to everybody, this channel is not monetized in any way. The only way that we make any money is when you folks support our authors by buying their books. So we appreciate anybody that heads out and takes a look at any of our links down below to our shops and picks up our titles, gives us a thumbs up on YouTube, comments, leaves comments on the videos, all that sort of thing. We really appreciate all the help of that. Wow, we got some positivity in there, didn't we? I feel like we definitely went off on a rant, but it was like
let's see. Well, I think we kind of implied that we were going to go off on a rant. Let's see. Well, that's all ranting, and that's ranting. And
did you have a list?
Oh, I did. Here's one that's not actually ranting, and this is writers' myths about editors. There are a lot of writers that they don't want to be edited, or don't want to be edited because they're gonna Editors are going to steal my idea and make $1 million on it. Ooh, okay, slow down. But here's one that is kind of it's important to know that this is a myth. When an editor, whether it's your editor at the publishing house, whether it's your freelance editor who is your developmental editor, if it's your critique group, if somebody says, this scene isn't working for me, and I think it would work if you change it this way. And especially if it's like in a critique group and everybody in the critique group had something to say about that scene. That one kind of slowed me down. Oh, that one, yeah, but I thought there's a problem there.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do what they say. When I was in graduate school, and I went to graduate school because I read this amazing book, and it turned out to be by a local author here, professor at the university. And I thought,
University of Undisclosed Location in Northern Nevada.
University of Nevada, undisclosed location. And anyway, I thought, if I got into graduate school, could I learn from her? The answer was yes. Took several creative writing classes from her. She was my thesis advisor, which was a novel, and she's my friend now. But in one of the classes, I had this story that was inspired by my friend Jack, who, the Vietnam vet and everything. But he had severe manic bipolar disorder. And so I was writing about his reaction to a certain situation. And Susan, in reading it, said, "Oh, this doesn't ring true to me." Because she's worked in hospitals as a chaplain or volunteering. She said, "I've known a lot of bipolar people, and they don't act like this." And so I looked at the story again because no, that's what happened with Jack. But I realized I hadn't written down everything that was in my head, and I didn't get it all on paper. And so I rewrote those scenes and sent it back to Susan, ignoring her notes of, well, it should happen this way. Although she didn't say it that way. It was because she knows how to write. She doesn't say you need to do it this way. She says, here's where the problems are. Anyway, but I did it a different way, and she read it and she said, "Perfect, that's great. That it works." So you don't have to do that. I did that with my children's picture book that was published. The editor said, this scene should be written this way. And so that scene, I just put in what he said, sent it to him. He emailed back and said, "I know I said that, but it doesn't work." And I said, "Yeah, I knew that too." And we spent like an entire week on that one scene in a picture book, going back and forth.
I would agree with you on the writing side that it's sort of the same way how in theater, as an actor, you don't give other actors notes. So I mean, with writing, I think it's the same thing. I think it's the place of the editor to point out the spots that they feel aren't working, but not give them an answer. It's more like, I'm presenting the puzzle to you to solve. Here's why, as a reader, this doesn't work for me. Can you try another approach and come at it from a different angle? And just identifying those weak spots in it. What makes me a little nuts is when authors try to then control every other aspect of the publication. Well, I think I want full input on the cover. I'm happy to listen to your ideas, but I have to sell your book. And if the stuff you want for the cover just absolutely doesn't make sense, then
my brother-in-law's cousin is an artist, and I got to use their art.
Yep. I am always very open to what the author wants, because the author has a vision in their head of, what they see for the book. I'm very against using people on covers, because the whole point is for the reader to develop an image in their own head based on the description, the description they've been given in the book. You want them to be able to form an opinion in their own head of what that character looks like, rather than presenting somebody on the front cover and saying this is the person you're reading about. So
Yeah.
I learned that in college, actually, about in an advertising class, about not using people on book covers. And it's why you rarely see it, or you'll see maybe a woman in silhouette, or the very common shot of the woman on the beach with the flowing dress and her hand holding her hat to her head, but you see no other features for her whatsoever.
And I've had that experience when I would get, a new book out of the library, and, hardback book, and read it, and oh, this is a wonderful story. Then when it came out in the mass market paperback, I would buy it, and I'd get the book and look at it and go, and there'd be a picture on the front of the character, and I go, no, that's not what they look like. And then sometimes the book is ruined.
Have you ever had a situation where you almost wish there was no description of the character? Like it's just not important that there be a description of the character. Do you need to know what color their hair is? Do you need to know what color their eyes are? Does it affect the actual story? If you weren't to have it there, and all you knew was that she was a woman in her 40s, maybe something else that might affect her environment around her as a result of the description you give. But if you were to
I was going to say that the description of the character shouldn't be so specific unless there's a reason. I'm reading a wonderful novel right now, a paranormal thriller that I got from a blind date with a book store that's here in town. Anyway, paranormal thriller, and I opened up. It's a great book, but there's one character who is a redhead, and redheads have that reputation of being kind of volatile, and this character's not volatile, like getting angry, but she's like hyper. But if the physical characteristics pertain to the story, or are going to move the story, or are going to be a part of the story, right, then I need to know them.
She's in a wheelchair, or
she's an old woman with arthritic hands, and then
right,
so she can't open the jar, or she can't defuse the bomb at the end, and she has to throw
and Linda, as an author and a reader, how insane does it make you when you get to a part in a book and you're getting the description of the character because they're looking in a mirror or some reflective surface? She looked in the mirror at her wavy curls of red hair, and her blue eyes sparkled back at her. Like, who the fuck talks like that? Like, read this shit out loud, people. Honestly, just read it out loud and tell me if it still makes that much sense to you when you do that.
I'm such a stubborn, obstinate person that, as you were saying that, I'm thinking, okay, so I'm going to write about this character, and she's just nuts, and she's always looking at herself in the mirror, and she's always having these interior dialogues about her blue, sparkling eyes. So I could write a story where that would be integral to the characterization, but mostly it's not. It's not.
It is such a cheap way out of telling a story. There's I gave an example to somebody where, like, instead of just having them look in the mirror and doing that, have another character remark on it. Boy, I wish I had your shade of red, but mine comes out of a bottle. Like, something that's like almost a throwaway line, but gives you a natural discussion of what somebody looks like, not handed to you on a silver platter or a silver plated mirror.
And it should in some way advance the story.
Yeah,
there should be some reason for it, because in this character, also in this one particular book, the redhead, there's this guy she likes who has the auburn hair, because it was flaming red when he was a kid, but now it's kind of auburn. And so she thinks about, redheads, we're a dying species, and she has actual statistics about how it's being bred out of the gene pool. But so she's pining for him, and he's in love with someone else. But that there's part of the storyline. That's part of this character's character.
Yeah.
That she's kind of obsessed with looks and stuff.
My my dear late friend, he wrote under a pseudonym named Dorian Gray. Roger Margison was his real name. Dorian was a well-loved author of game mysteries. He had been nominated.
Oh, okay.
He'd been nominated for several Lambda Awards. I had known him from the beginning of his career with GLB Pubs. He went to another publisher, I think, after that, and then I picked him up and all of his books at my previous publisher that shall remain unnamed. And that was one of the highlights, was being able to publish his whole series. But what's interesting about that whole his Richard Dick mysteries, that whole series, you're never really told much about what Richard looks like. And Dorian did that on purpose. He wanted the stories to be able to remain timeless, so that if the book was read in back in the day, if it was read back in 1999, or if it was read in 2025, there'd be some story features that are there that would maybe set a time and a place, but he was deliberately vague all the time about when and where the stories took place, and the age and description of his lead character, and it worked. I mean,
yeah,
because it took the pressure off needing all those little details that weren't really truly essential to moving the plot along.
And then you as the writer have to remember, oh wait, did she have hazel eyes or brown eyes?
Exactly. When you're six books into a series, and you're having to go back, and Judith Weber was another author I worked with previously. She had a series that had something like 8 or 9 books in it, and we were talking about Marilyn Todd, same thing, who I publish now. Marilyn's got, I think, oh, good grief, 9 or 10 books in her I, Claudia series. I mean, can you imagine getting to book 6, 7, or 8, and suddenly, and you're trying to do a tie back to something that you did in a previous book, and you were so specific? That's when you get those readers that are like, wait a second, she can't possibly have black hair here, because back in book 3 on page 47, you said she was a blonde. I mean, look at Star Trek and Doctor Who fans, right? You get the you get the, Al, am I right? You get Al can appreciate this, because she's like me. She's got that pop culture sensibility thing, and I know, like, I think she's a Lord of the Rings fan, if I'm not mistaken. But it's that thing of, it goes on for so long that the moment the show or the movie gets one thing wrong that doesn't tie back to what it was in the original, all the fans come out and they're like, nope, you can't say that. That's not what happened. That's not how they were.
The Columbo fans do that too, because long running movie or TV series, then movie series, and there are some little things in there that
see,
didn't quite.
Al is saying yes with multiple exclamation points. Yeah, I knew she'd appreciate that. Yeah, it's very, very true. It's funny. I just was doing some research on Columbo, because I hadn't watched that much of it. I didn't realize how, I think everybody seems to think of Columbo as a TV series, and I don't think they realized just how many TV movies there were, which were actually, I think there were more movies than there actually were like a series episode kind of. It was actually series, and like with an occasional TV movie.
It actually never was a TV series per se, because the series was it was a couple different nights of the week. It started out, I think, as the Sunday mystery movie, and there were 4 different series, and they were like hour-and-a-half episodes. And so one week it would be Columbo, the next week it'd be Macmillan and Wife, the next week it would be Banachek or whatever. Don't fact check me. I'm just pulling these out of my ass.
No, you know what? You said that, so now I want everybody to go fact check you, and then I want them to leave reviews and go, nope, she got it wrong, because on such and such a day Columbo wasn't shown. It was this other one.
Yeah, but anyway, it started out as more movie format. It was never like a 1 hour TV show, but it was always a movie. But the network that started it, after I think 2 years, it went and then the producers and creators shopped it over to another of the big three networks and got it picked up there, and then it got canceled.
Hello,
But then it came
Jennifer. Nice to
once a
see
year
you.
for movie. Who hopped in? Who are you saying hi to?
Jennifer just hopped in.
Good. Hi.
Were you
Yeah, yeah.
were you a Columbo fan, Linda?
Oh, I'm still a Columbo fan. I've seen every episode like 800 times.
I'm
Yeah.
just now kind of discovering it. I mean, fortunately, so much of it is available on YouTube or on the interwebs that you know, it gives us the ability to catch up on those.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've written all sorts of fun stuff about just essays and stuff, you know, blowing off steam. And one of these days I'm going to collect it all together and see if I can make some sort of book out of it. But it's just like there's just so much to look at in there, because from the outside, people that haven't watched it say, "Oh, you know, Columbo, that guy, he was a bumbling fool." And hello, are you making the same mistake the murderers made?
Exactly. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
true.
But yeah,
So,
yeah,
Linda,
it's great.
Linda, we are reaching the end of our schedule here. Tell the good folks there what's coming up in your world over the course of the next 2 weeks until we get to see you again.
Yeah, let's see. I just I think last weekend I did a class on point of view for the SCBWI chapter here in this undisclosed location, Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, but wrote about point of view because that's something that a lot of writers need help on. And I've got a class on short stories coming up through the Sierra Arts Foundation, which is our local arts foundation that includes literary arts, and that's coming up. And and then there's a writer's retreat in the area. That's a really great chance to get away and stay in a art center that used to be a Catholic hospital, and it's just full of ghosts. And I don't believe in ghosts, but that's why the ghosts always harass me, because it really pisses them off when you don't believe in them. So the people that are scared of the ghosts, I say, hey, come anyway. They'll be bothering me.
I guess, boy, if that logic holds true, I guess that means apparently I don't believe in assholes, because I sure seem to keep getting surrounded by them all the time. So that's how that works. Oh, now I understand.
Yeah.
So exciting
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And there's other stuff, but but yeah, I'm writing now, so
I'm glad you're writing, because we have some new stuff coming from you, I hope, very, very soon.
Yeah.
I know you're working. I know you're working on a what we're calling triplets, which are basically a one volume of basically 3 novellas tied together by a unifying theme, as created by Sandra. And I know you and Sandy, and I believe it's June White is the third in the first triplet that we're doing, right?
Yep. And
I know Sandy's got a bunch of other folks lined up on deck to follow behind that. So we've certainly got those coming. And then let's see, we finally, after 2 years of working on it, Hidden History, the story of the donut dollies in Vietnam, is finally coming to market this week. I'm so happy. The untold story of these women who served in the Red Cross during Vietnam and have never gotten the recognition. Hi, Terry. Welcome in. You never got the recognition, and they're not recognized as veterans, and it's just a really, really unfortunate thing. But it took us and it's all firsthand accounts from the surviving women, and we're really excited to be finally getting that out there to everybody. We have we're going to be returning to the station and jumping on the Johnny Cajun Roots Resellers Train Shop Hop at the end of this month. We're going to be getting a passenger ticket. Unfortunately, Linda's going to be sitting that one out, but my guest is going to be editor and author Teresa Ng.
Yeah, good
who is
choice.
a phenomenal editor, and I got to tell you, the women she gets together for her anthologies are some of the most talented authors. And I say women because typically her anthologies are made up of all female authors, which is awesome, getting that voice and that visibility out there. But they are some of the best promoters I have ever seen. Oh my goodness. And Teresa never stops promoting. Doesn't matter how many books she has out, she treats all of them the same. So sneak announcement for everybody that is attending the show this evening. We've actually agreed to be on the shop hop through the end of the year. So we will be joining everybody on the shop hop every single month. I believe we are permanently in the 5 p.m. time slot. We're the second to last folks with Toochman, my buddy Tooch, who brings up the caboose of the train. But does look like we'll probably be moving our author interviews primarily to the shop hop. That seems to be a really great format. Lets us focus on their specific books and be able to offer great deals on their books during the shop hop. Gets them a little bit better exposure. Who knows? We'll end up with more radio shows, Linda. I mean, look at what happened with you and I doing the shop hop.
Yeah.
Nobody. We didn't see that one coming. So
Yep.
So yeah, we'll be doing the shop hop. There are 3 brand new shows coming to this channel. I am hoping to launch one of them this month if I can. We're going to start interviewing other small presses, finding out what makes them tick, and because it's not a competition. Out here in the small press world, we do our best to support each other. And if I can use our platform to help another publisher keep their doors open and get some more traction, then by all means, that's what I want to do. I will be doing a little bit of on the road interviews. I am going to have a library series coming where I will be talking to librarians from around the country. In some cases, I will be traveling to those cities and filming in their libraries. And having them show me around and tell me about how their library fits their community, and how they take care of their community. We're going to be really focused on small towns for that, where folks are really where their library is more than just a place to check out books, but it's a community center. People need the internet and job skills and the whole 9 yards. So. And be on the lookout for that. And then there will be a bookshop survival series coming where we try to focus on some independent bookstores around the globe, and what they're doing and showcasing what they're doing to stay relevant in an age where unfortunately small pubs and bookstores are closing their doors. I want this channel to be more than just about Misti Media and our authors. Between Linda and myself and Sandy and Walt, we have years and years and years and years of experience in the publishing industry. I mean, combined experience years is well over 100 years of experience that we all have in this. And if what we can do,
everyone benefits when people learn and read more.
And I'm what part of being in the reseller community is I'm learning a lot about I'm getting a lot of education from the resellers about the stuff they sell, and I'm realizing that we're in a spot that we too can be offering that education and that history, and help people that aren't involved in the business, just help them understand a little better what's going on in the world of publishing, and make it approachable, and make it interesting for everybody. So that's the goal. We've got a lot we want to bring it. It's I've got Walt and I've got Sandy and I've got Linda that help me run stuff, in the background and come up with ideas and things like that while I focus on the day-to-day operation of the business. And but I'm going to be expanding out quite a bit more of the YouTube, because I really, really enjoy it. Well, Patrick, I will take you here anytime. And if you weren't a smartass, you wouldn't be any fun to be around, and you wouldn't fit in so well with everybody else, because we're all a bunch of smartasses around here. That's and damn proud of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, and then a couple of people have asked for an update on a project that I'm working on. This is a personal project. Most people don't see my writing. I've sort of had this weird policy for both at my previous publishing house that will remain unnamed, and with Misti Media, I've never actually published any of my own stuff. But I am working on a project called the Postcard People, that folks, I know folks have heard about. If you follow me on the morning show with Johnny and Mark, or any of the others, in that I'm collecting postcards that have been written over the years and sent to people, and I am researching the people and the stories behind the postcards. So I'm hunting down the original writers, I'm hunting down the places and the stories, and I'm going to be compiling these into a series of books called the Postcard People. And I'm going to do my best to start documenting some of the research I'm doing on these and making videos of that for those people that are interested in following along with how that comes together. And some of it'll be videos with the people as I uncover them, and if they agree to do phone calls or video calls, and recording those and including those in the video series with the book to come out. Hopefully the first volume will be out before the end of the year, but it all kind of depends on how the research goes. With me being able to get to the bottom, but it's just something that fascinates me. I'm really into that kind of history, and postcards are just this really incredible personal way of communicating with one another. That somebody who comes across one, all it does is spark. Geez, why did they send that? What is the snapshot in time that this is about? So really looking forward to working on that. So yeah, lots of great stuff coming down the pike from Misti Media. Lots of great releases from many, many authors. We are scheduled all the way through the end of the year with releases every single month. And we're already even starting to schedule into 2027. So, and it's everybody from brand new voices to folks you've definitely heard of. And we'll keep you posted on what's going on. Linda, any final thoughts for these folks?
Hey, if anybody has ideas of topics that Jay and I can talk about, butt heads about, anything like that, let us know in the comments.
Exactly. Absolutely. Anything you're interested in, by all means, leave it in the comments field. This is a community chat. It's not just Linda and I, talking to each other, although that's definitely the fun part of it. But we're definitely here to whatever anybody wants to talk about, even if it's off topic from publishing. We've got other areas we can get to.
Everything that I've done in my life. Whew.
Ooh, Lord, honey.
Exactly.
All the arrests, all the prison time. Hey, yeah, that's people want to hear about that.
No, that's not true. That's a rumor. Nobody has ever proved anything. Okay,
that's true.
Never been proved.
As you said, if there's no body, there's no proof.
See, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. We're back in 2 weeks, same time, same channel.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
We will do our best to have our thumbnail and our topic up much further in advance so that people can actually send in questions. Don't forget, if you do send in questions to the show, or if you comment in the comments field with a story idea or topic idea and we use it, you do get a free book from Misti Media, because we really appreciate you folks participating. Think that's it for now. Thanks again, folks, for being here, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.